so many people, we get exponential credit. So a couple more points about today. We went to see the Bhajan Kutir of Srila Bhaktisiddhānta Saraswatī Ṭhākura. And I made a couple of points while we were in the temple room, and I'm not sure how much you heard, because there was a saw going, and then after that there was some bells ringing. And do you remember the two principles that we discussed? Yes, Prabhu, and let's pass the mics around now. Is everyone okay?
Yes. You were discussing the two principles that Bhaktisiddhānta Saraswatī exemplified in his teachings and example, and how he was able to expand the Krishna consciousness movement around the world. First being yukta Vairagya, by being able to use everything in Krishna's service and not renouncing it in an immature way, just simply for the purpose of appearing renounced. But everything can actually be engaged in the service of Krishna. And then you gave the example that he had his disciples wear shoes, had his disciples wear coats, shirts, and so many things in order to make themselves presentable. And then simultaneously you asked us a question: what are some things you can use in the service of Krishna? Cell phones, iPads, microphones, so many things can be used. And then you segued into the second point, emphasizing that there's a class of men in India that put emphasis on being a Brahmana is a birthright. But this isn't actually an appropriate understanding, that it's actually open to everyone who is willing to go through the process to become purified and elevated. And then you quoted the verse, Aho. I don't remember. Yeah. So you quoted this verse by Devahuti, which is giving Shastra Pramanam that even someone who likes to eat dogs can be elevated to the position of the highest position simply by chanting the names of Krishna. And then the sauce started going and the bells started ringing.
Thank you very much. That was such a nice summary. And now I'd like to introduce a third point that comes from Srila Bhaktisiddhānta Saraswatī Ṭhākura, which will be helpful to us as we go to various places in the Dham. And that is his explanation of darshan. Srila Bhaktisiddhānta Saraswatī says that we are seen, we're not the seer. In fact, we can't see without the help of the sun, who is we're interdependent with the devas. We have a relationship here that's interdependent. We are not independent in our sensory experiences here in this world. We depend on higher beings in order to take in this stimuli through our senses and then interpret it properly. It's all going on in a very mechanical way, albeit it's very subtle and happens instantaneously. However, Srila Bhaktisiddhānta Saraswatī Ṭhākura says that when we go to Krishna, for instance, in the temple, then we're going there to be seen by him. And he emphasized a point which we can carry with us everywhere, and that is that don't try to see Krishna, but work in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. And if you think about the terminology that we use commonly, if someone had a slight ailment, and you said, did you go see the doctor? So you go in and look at the doctor and then you walk out? Actually, what it means is, were you seen by the doctor? Did you go see a doctor? Were you seen by a doctor is more accurate. And what does it mean when the doctor sees you? The doctor examines you, really, should. And nowadays they take blood, well, allopathic medicine take blood, the Ayurvedic physician will take your pulse. some will listen to your heart, and so forth. And they examine you, and they look in and see, like, what's going on in there? What are the inner workings? So when we go before the deity, according to our mindset, we may not be able to see Krishna there. Even though Krishna is there, and he's not different from the deity. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Krishna. In fact, when he saw Jagannath, he saw Shyamasundar Krishna, and he ran towards him to embrace him. Even Gopakumar, when he was in Vaikuntha, he didn't see Narayan, he saw Gopal. And this is mentioned in many places. Of course, a famous mention of this is when Krishna and Balaram walked into the wrestling arena in Mathura, and there are various types of people there who observed him in different ways. The wrestlers saw him as a thunderbolt. The unintelligent saw him as the universal form. The Vrishnis saw him as the supreme deity. The women there saw him as the ultimate Cupid, and so on. Everyone had a different perspective. The word perspective actually has the meaning that things that you individually pick up from your environment. You don't pick up the same things others do. We don't see the world the way it is. We see the world the way we are. So, what does all this add up to? When we go to see Krishna, we're actually going to be seen by Krishna, according to Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Saraswatī Ṭhākura. And of course, Krishna is always seeing us. There's never a point at which he's not seeing us and not attentive to us. It's just that I'm not attentive to him. This is what Gajendra says. He said, I'm praying now, but it's not that you're starting to notice me because I'm praying. You've always been tuned in. To use a modern metaphor, but now I'm aware that I need help, so now I'm aware that you're there, more acutely aware. So consider also that the whole creation starts with a glance, doesn't it? Saikshata is mentioned in a brief in the Vedas that the Supreme Personality of Godhead glances and then everything happens. This is also there in the Brahma Samhita and elsewhere, that the glance of the Supreme Lord. So, and in the Bible, what does it say? He saw that it was good? In Genesis. Okay, so we have Bible pramanam also. And so, what does it mean when we go to see the Lord? Now, of course, when you see Lord Jagannath, he sees a lot. His eyes are, he's called Chakadola. His eyes are like wagon wheels practically, and to see us. And we want to be seen by the Lord. So, if Krishna, by his glance, creates the whole universe, what can you do for us? If we just go and present ourselves and say, please make me fit for devotional service, and he glances with his very glance. He brought back to life the cowherd boys after they had entered into Aghasura, and there they were. They had expired, and Krishna just looked at them and brought them back to life. He can also bring us back to life. So when we go to see Krishna, we can remember that we're presenting ourselves, that here's my spirit of service that I bring before you. And that's one of the concepts that Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Saraswatī Ṭhākura talked about regularly. In fact, he practiced it, although he needed glasses for far vision. Oftentimes he didn't wear his glasses, and when some would say, Guru Maharaj, please take the glasses, he would say, I didn't come here to see, I came here to be seen. And he sometimes would stand at the back of the temple at the Garuda Stamba. Garuda is always there ready to serve Krishna. And there's a pillar with Garuda on top in most temples. And he would sometimes, Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta, stand at the back under the Garuda Stamba, because he said, when Krishna looks out, he'll look at his devotee, Garuda, and he'll notice that I'm under his feet. and then all be considered favorably. And of course, those of you who go to see Jagannath Temple, you'll notice the Garuda Stamba at the back of the temple, and that's where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu resolved to stand to observe Jagannath, or be observed by him whenever he went for darshan. After the first time, and he became ecstatic and ran towards the altar and couldn't contain himself, he decided to stay way at the back. So that's a third principle of Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Saraswatī Ṭhākura. So now we have an opportunity to meet some more devotees. So if you would be so kind as to take 5 minutes now to meet somebody that you haven't met yet. Find out their name, where they're from, why they came here to Jagannath Puri in the first place. And I saw who you met yesterday, so if you... I didn't see anything, but Krishna saw, and he's watching you. But please pick somebody new. That's more fun. Pick somebody that you haven't met, you don't even know who they are, where they're from, and if you can do that, and just introduce yourself, and then we'll meet back here in 5 minutes. Is that okay? On your mark, get set, meet. Hare Krishna. But that was no fun, right? No fun. Okay, a lot of fun. Yātrā is first, and what other things? Remember from yesterday, if you were here? And service, because if you are determined to do service, then you'll be welcome everywhere you go. What's more, you'll always have plenty to do that's constructive. Whereas when we're trying to be served, then it's very difficult. So service, association, and being in the Dham to develop this sense of attachment for everything in relationship to Krishna. Now we have opportunity to share some realizations from the day. Consolidation is always really important because we take in so much. Hari, hari, hari. We take in so much, and then to examine what we've taken in and consolidate it, put it in a place that it can be useful to us in our practice, and also in codifying it so we can relate it to others, so help them in their practices as well. So let's take a moment to hear whatever kind of realizations you have from the day. Prema.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I was thinking about, today you spoke about dog eaters and what to say about like me, like I was a cow eater for many years, since I was 14. So that's one part, because we see in the Vedic culture that dog eaters is very bad, but what about cow eaters? And the other thing was, I heard the other day that if one is attached to the opposite sex, that's not very good for growing in Krishna consciousness, I mean, to develop good consciousness. But if you are attached, if you are in association of one that is very attached for women's or men's, that's worse. And in the opposite way, if you are attached of Krishna, that's good. But if you are attached for those who are attached for Krishna, that's great. So that's our reflection.
Nice. Very well. Okay, we're sharing realizations, and also if anybody has a question that they want to bring up that you think will expand a certain topic in a way that will be helpful, then do that.
Hare Krishna. I have one observation. I was just thinking that when we were at Chota Gopinath, we were speaking a lot about Gadadhar Pandit, and when we got to Chatak Parvat, we started speaking about Yukta Vairagya, and immediately my mind went to the pastime of Gadadhar Pandit and his guru Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who was exemplary of Yukta Vairagya, because he was, maybe externally he was dressed in like fine robes and oiled hair, but then he could cry for Krishna just on recitation of that one verse, Aho Bakiyam Stanakala Kutam. So he had real love for Krishna, but externally he was well situated materially.
So, yeah, that's another pastime of Gadadhar Pandit, which Prabhu has brought to mind. And just that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to pine for someone, and the devotees didn't know who it was. And he would call out his name, and the devotees were speculating about who it was that Mahaprabhu was so attached to and was so anticipatory about arriving at some point. There is one person who knew about him because they're from the same ancestral area, and his name was Mukunda. And when Pundarik had come to the area and Mukunda knew he was there, he had informed Gadadhar Pandit that there was a great devotee, and would you like to meet him? And Gadadhar Pandit is known as a very learned person, and also, that's hence the name Pandit, as well as very simple, pure. And he said, of course, I would like to meet him right away. And when Mukunda took him to the house of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he noticed right away the trappings of Pundarik, which didn't look like externally like somebody who was spiritually advanced. He looked more like an extreme enjoyer, which was evident from the opulent bedstead that he was on. It was better than Tempur-Pedic. He had silk canopies. His hair is a big deal, the way we take care of our hair. I mean, it's billions of dollar industry. So his hair was a big deal. It was oiled, it was curly, it was styled, and so forth. And everything around him looked like there was some sensual intent behind it. In fact, he was served by bejeweled servants who were fanning him, and he was resting on one of those, sort of was a couch bed at the same time, and so forth. And then it came into the mind of Gadadhar Pandit. He didn't say anything, that this is a devotee, this is the sadhu he wanted me to see. And then, of course, as Prabhu mentioned, that Mukunda then, understanding the mind of Gadadhar Pandit, recited one verse from the Bhagavatam, and then Pundarik Vidyanidhi went into one of those fits of devotion where he flailed his arms and was unconsolable for hours. In fact, he first thrashed everything in the room. His hair went haywire, broke all the pottery, everything, as they were trying to restrain him and finding it impossible, until he went into a trance and stayed that way for a long time. So then Gadadhar Pandit thought, I made an offense, and this is why Gadadhar Pandit brought it up to Mukunda. I think to alleviate this offense, I should take initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and Mahaprabhu approved that, and they did it on an auspicious day. One of the points there is just that the devotees take very seriously even what they think about others. That came up when we were in Navadvip, because Nirkula had mentioned that Sachimata had not said anything about Advaita Acharya. She just thought it, because he gave open Bhagavad Gita classes that her son went to, her eldest son, and he had taken sannyas. So she thought, he's not Advaita, he's Dvaita, which means that he's a divider. He's not one with Krishna. And Mahaprabhu knew that, and therefore he took her to task on that, and she had to alleviate the offense by coming to Advaita Acharya. So it's a pastime remembering how subtle the feelings are of the devotees, how they notice even what they're thinking, and what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sees also in our minds. Other reflections or questions? Oh my goodness. Okay. We'd like a trade-in on the mic.
I really like the point where you mentioned about darshan, and it's actually a continuation from what you said yesterday, like where you said that Bhaktisiddhānta Maharaj told what will they see, right? When a few devotees went to take darshan without hearing the class. So maybe I was just thinking that's why in Indian Vedic culture, the philosophical systems, the texts are also called darshan, right? Because only if you apply your mind in reading them will we be able to take darshan in its true sense, right? And I was just thinking that somewhere I heard this quote, the eyes cannot see what the mind does not know. Right, and something like if I see an MRI scan or an X-ray scan, I might still be seeing it, but it doesn't make any sense to me because I am not trained in the field of medicine. Right, so that was very touching what you said. But I do have a question on the Yukta Vairagya, since we've been speaking about it quite often. I was just wanting to know: is there a wrong Yukta Vairagya? Like, could I be applying it whimsically and maybe my mind tricking me into thinking that, oh yeah, that is Yukta Vairagya? Is there some way for me to know what is the right and wrong
Prabhupada
way?
told the story about Gopal Ban. You know Gopal Ban? He was a rascal. So he did all kinds of rascally stuff. So Gopal Ban, his friends used to criticize me and say, you never offer anything to Krishna. And one day Gopal Ban was coming back from his agricultural field and he had a big basket full of grains, and a gust of wind came and it blew those grains high in the air, so it was like a cloud of grains floating down, and he goes, I offer that to Vishnu. This is called after the fact. Also, there's a way in which the intention is really important. That's Krishna says in the Gita, Brahman yadaya karmani sangam tyakva karotiya lipitena sapapena padma patram ivambasa. That if you're offering truly the result of the work to me, Krishna says, then it's in the realm of true renunciation. There's no residue from that. So the motivation has to be there. Just like, let's just take an emotion, because you can offer your emotions to Krishna also. You can lose your temper, or you can use your temper. It's very rare, actually, though. And oftentimes people become angry and then they'll justify it and say, like, yeah, I meant to do that. But you didn't. You got mad. And you lost your composure. However, there is a case in which Arjuna used his anger. Prabhupada mentions it. So we have to be attentive and honest to see, am I really in control? Am I really attached or not? I need this, or do I need it for my service? There's a difference between the two. So we have to be careful, because there is a way in which, in the name of taking things, that we can cross back into a sense of enjoyment. Prabhupada mentions it in context of prasadam. He says prasadam is completely spiritual and purifying, but if in the name of prasadam we stuff ourselves as sense gratification, it's not, we're just eating more and more for our own senses, then it can also start to affect us, and it's not the same as taking it with a mood of service that you're honoring prasadam. Okay, there was a couple more. Okay, and then we're going from Arjuna Manjulikanta, and then right over here.
This is about book distribution, so I was kind of hesitant. To
Why would you hesitate?
Yeah, so that's a separate conversation.
Okay, all right.
But the 100% guarantee was
Yeah,
was
how
in
did it
my
work
mind.
out?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first person we met Preeti and Chaitanya Priya. So it was. I was shocked that it worked, like the lollipop. And then the second person we met, said, this is Dharmik Boy, like Bengali person who we met, and said, this was very, like, just a natural thing for them to take it. Like, it was just done deal. Like, okay, whatever we can give, it's so easy. Like, we can give 20 rupees, 10 rupees, whatever. So it was as if the Acharyas and Goswamis were actually in their roop. Like, they were there and helping us do this service. It was that feeling that, this can't be so easy. It's actually them who are here and they are teaching us something instead of we doing some service. So that was just the realization. And of course the Acharyas and the mood was, of course, after that we went to so many temples, the kathas, all of that kind of linked in my head.
Well, I'm delighted. That's so nice. Manjulikanta. We'll bring you the mic. Full service operation.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I was very happy I could come for the trip. Very unhappy I missed the first day.
Hare Krishna.
I know. I had to visit my in-laws and then come. And when I was doing that, I remembered how you told me about how important it is to have balance in your life. You cannot have just one thing and overlook the others. And then I was coming in the airport and I was thinking, well, everybody's gone to Tata Gopinath and I've missed it and I'm still coming. But I had a wonderful conversation with the cab driver who spoke so much Prabhupada sense to me. And I was just looking at him and thinking, the Dham is not just a place, it's the people who live there. And it's so nice that when we come to the Dham, we not only get association of our own, but we get the association of the devotees at the Dham. And so many opportunities to learn from them. And I really liked what you told about not judging a book by its cover. Because a lot of times when we visit temples, when we go out there to book distribute, we realize how many unnoticed assumptions we've already made in our mind about what a person might or might not be. And it's really nice to have this opportunity to break them down again and again. So very grateful, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you very much. Nice observations. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was trying to connect what you said in the morning about the different energies of Krishna, the external energy and the internal energy, the living entities, and then the Yukta Vairagya principle, which is sort of saying that even the external energy, you use it for Krishna in an authorized manner, like based on the permission from your spiritual master and from the the authorized scriptures. Then it turns into the internal energy and everything becomes absolute again. I was trying to connect.
These are very important points, and electricity obviously is a very useful energy, but it has to be managed properly. And all the energies of the world are usable in some way, but you have to manage them properly. If I whimsically use them, then just like with electricity, if you're not careful, you can electrocute yourself with them. And with the material energy as well, it's very fascinating energy, but if I don't go through the right steps and utilize it properly, it can also sting or also electrocute me. So taking authorization and how to use things, I noticed that advanced devotees go by that principle. In fact, that's the principle Prabhupada mentioned that was the basis of his success, that I'm doing this under authorization. I have no qualification except that I'm following the order of my spiritual master. And I noticed that sometimes devotees, it's like, okay, they're independent, they're advanced, whatever, but just like some devotees will come and visit and they're going to give a class and they say, please tell me what you want to talk about. what you want me to talk about, how I can be of the most service and so forth. They collaborate with others, they get a consensus, they make sure that they're lined up when they're doing whatever they do, no matter how expert they are. They're careful to not do it independently or have this sense of ego that I'm doing it on my own, but always remembering that it's Krishna that's working through me. I think Devavrata, okay, you were for a long time. Go ahead, and then Devavrata Prabhu, and then when Hanai Pandit Prabhu gets back and Bhagavat Prabhu, then we'll sing our way out.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
My name is Prema Avatar Das from Atlanta with my family.
Prema Avatar.
Yes, Maharaj.
What a nice name.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here. We're deeply grateful. Yesterday and today, you've allowed me to enter into the Dham in a very special way. I was thinking about how hard spiritual life is, what a long, gradual journey it can be of ups and downs. And so I was thinking of that verse, chapter 7, I think verse 3, out of many thousands of millions of men, so few even aspire for perfection. Started thinking, wow, this is just a long journey. It's not easy. And I don't know how many lifetimes it would take me. But the way you shared your realizations over the last couple of days allowed me to believe that actually it conjured this realization that here, not only am I in the Dham, a very special Dham, there's so many Dhams, but a very special Dham, but I get to chant in the Dham, I get to worship the deities in the Dham, I get to associate with devotees in the Dham, I get to participate in Srimad Bhagavatam in the Dham. And not only that, each of those things are exemplified because we're all doing it together in the Dham at the same time. So I realized that it actually doesn't have to be that hard. we can take advantage of these very rare and special opportunities to almost like I feel like the acharyas have kind of, Krishna says this, but acharyas have given us cheat codes. Like gamers get cheat codes. They've given us these cheat codes to make extraordinary advancement in a very short period of time, and I'm kind of feeling that right now. So I want to thank you.
Hari Hari. I didn't know about cheat codes. I didn't need a cheat code. Devavrata.
Hare Krishna.
Huh? Cheat code? I thought it was code. That's what I said. I mean, I don't mind having a cheat code either. She got me one. It's this code where you can put extra weight in, because they don't charge you for that. We didn't need it so far, but it's got about 80 pockets in it. That's a cheat code. Okay, go ahead.
So I was just reflecting how I've been fortunate for the past year to spend the majority of my time here in India. And I've traveled extensively to different parts of India, South India, West India, North India. And this is my first time in Sri Kshetra.
Haribo.
And there's been few moments that I've had while living in India where I feel that this is Vaishnava culture, where like something really stands out. And in Orissa, it's been moment after moment after moment after moment. The people are so connected with that flow of energy constantly. And what particularly stood out today was the Tota Gopinath temple, how after we had the program, generally what I've experienced, and this is nothing against anyone, but after you have a program, sometimes there's a push for a donation for the temple, which is okay, it's a good thing. But I was appreciating how after the end of our session, they wanted to give prasadam, and they were very eager to do it actually. I was walking out the door, they're like, prasadam, prasadam, prasadam. So I was thinking when we were taking prasadam that this is Vaishnava culture, this is what the spiritual world is. is these exchanges of love. We came to do Krishna Katha, and then the way they reciprocated is wanting to give prasadam. So I was appreciating that, and so many moments like that here in Sri Kshetra, I feel.
Yeah, I felt that one too. In fact, Bhagavat Seva Prabhu gave me some rupees, because everywhere we go, on behalf of the group, we always give a donation, a sizable donation. And so he handed me the rupees, and I tried to give them to the devotee who was arranging the prasadam. And he was like, no, which was rare. And then he finally, I said, no, we want to give you this. We really appreciate the work you're doing here at the service. And, he took it. But he had no motivation to take rupees. And I also noticed that when we came here with the youth on Christmas Day, and we started going to Tota Gopinath, we started developing a relationship with them. There's, I haven't seen him yet, but there's a sadhu there who kind of runs the place. I think he's the Mahant, but maybe he's out of station for a few days. But, he was doing his whole set of mantras before the doors would open every day. And it was really nice. We were tuning into it. Some of the songs we knew, some of them we didn't. But then I noticed he was looking around, and he started noticing all these kids, really bright kids. And then, like on the third day we got there, he pushed the Madanga toward Bharat. I don't know how he knew Bharat was a Madanga prodigy, but he gave him that. And then, he started handing to the young women the gongs and everything like that. And that was a loving exchange. It's a kind of way of saying, you're in our group. I mean, if you give somebody a madanga, you're taking a a leap of faith. So, to see that when you come together, and that there are different kinds of Vaishnavas, and then when they do their Prema Dhvani and you hear Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita, it's like, hey, we're in the same gotra, we're together, It's nice to make those connections.
And just on top of this point, Radhesham Prabhu and I were speaking about this when we were taking prasadam, that this culture, in contrast to the West, the experience it has specifically on people who were raised in that culture their entire life, to come in and see an alternative, I think is so important for devotees, particularly that were born in the West, to come in contact with and see the potential for what is there when people are properly aligned. And just to contrast those two things is extremely important, I feel.
Yeah. As far as generosity and prasadam goes, Prabhupada was meticulous. Any darshan he gave, he always gave prasadam. And if somebody left early, he would notice it, and he'd have somebody chase after them, make sure they got prasadam before they left. So, anyway, this has been yesterday was a kind of introductory day, and today was our first day of Parikram. We're adjusting the schedule as we speak to see where we're going tomorrow because of a few changing aspects of that are changing. So we'll report that in a bit where we're going tomorrow. And today was a great success. We spent a day together in the Dham, and we heard and chanted, and now we're going to finish with one bhajan. So we can go to sleep with a song in our heart. What do you think? Take that. We're going to do a song by Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. Every song Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura wrote was a hit, which is amazing. I mean, he wrote thousands of songs. He wrote hundreds of books. He was a judge. He had 11 children. That's not nothing. And he was in charge of the Jagannath Puri temple for some time. He was so sought after in various regions of India that people would make special signing bonuses for him and everything like that. And in fact, they're gone now, but when we're near his house, when we go to, say it? Gujrumadweep. Then there used to be a little train track. I would have loved that as a kid. I mean, there was a little train track that the government built just for him to take a train to work. A minute, like, what's that miniature train track doing here? It was for Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. So he wrote all these songs. He is really the powerhouse that's bringing down Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message and vibration into the world. His son, Bhaktisiddhānta Saraswatī Ṭhākura, picked it up and passed it through Srila Prabhupada, who passed it on.